Hi, I'm Carolyn from TimefireVR. We're the founders of Hypatia, a virtual metropolis. We also do 360 video, and this tutorial is about our process, including filming, stitching, and exporting. If you like what you see, subscribe for future videos. The Freedom 360 rig looks like this. We use GoPro Hero 4 black cameras. These rigs are usually recommended for live streaming purposes because they are specially designed to optimize cable management. But, of course, they take videos and photos as well. Keeping your stuff organized is very important since you're dealing with 6 cameras. The rig has numbers, but the microSD cards and cameras do not. So, label each camera and its card with a marker or tape just to help keep everything together. Charge the 6 cameras to full battery and make sure each camera has a microSD card. Turn on the cameras by pressing the large silver button on the front. The camera will flash red a couple of times, and you'll see the screen come on. You can turn on the camera's Wi-Fi connection to a remote control by pressing the silver mode button on the front until you get to setup. Press the record button on the top to go into the setup menu. The first option is Wi-Fi, so press the record button once to select it. Press the record button again to return the Wi-Fi from off to on. To pair a camera with the remote, turn on the remote by pressing the lower left button. Turn on the camera, go to the setup menu, and into the Wi-Fi menu. Scroll down to Pair and select it with the top record button. Scroll down to Wi-Fi RC and select it with the top record button. The 2 arrows and flashing blue light mean that the camera is ready to be paired to the remote. Pick up the remote and click and hold the wrench icon to activate pairing mode. The remote will also show 2 arrows while they are pairing. From here, you can press the record button on the remote to start recording with the camera. You can repeat this process to sync all cameras to the remote. If they're all flashing blue, then they're all ready to pick up the Wi-Fi signal from the remote control. These are the camera settings we use to record 360 video. For 6 camera rigs, stitching is pretty much impossible in the 16:9 format, so use 4:3. Other than the 4:3 ratio, feel free to experiment with other settings. Press the small black button on the side of the camera and use the silver mode button on the front to scroll down to the aspect ratio. Use the record button on the top to cycle through the options. The optimal setting is 2.7K 4:3 ratio. It is also recommended to have ProTune mode turned on. We're just using this regular camera tripod for now. The rig can screw into the top like this. Like many tripods, this will leave a rather large black shape at the nadir, or bottom, of all the 360 videos. We can cover it up with our logo in a black circle. We'll discuss how to do this later in Premiere Pro with the plugin Mettle Skybox 2D Viewer. When you're at the location where you want to record, and your camera is on the tripod, you can start recording by pressing the red record button on each camera individually, or use the remote to activate all cameras simultaneously. So at the beginning, just after you've pressed record on all the cameras, you should do an audio or motion sync to help the cameras sync up later in the stitching process. Another type of motion sync is to cover the rig with a bag, then remove the bag. Audio sync has worked the best for us. If you can see the camera, then you'll be in the footage. If you don't want to be seen, then hide around a corner and wait. It's also possible to remove people and tripods with Adobe After Effects or Photoshop, but we won't be covering that in this particular tutorial. Parallax is 2 ghost-like images that appear slightly off from one another. In this image, you can see some parallax happening on the headphones, as well as up here on the computer. This is because this was the line between the 2 cameras on the rig. If it was important to see information on that computer screen, it would be wise to have one of the cameras point directly at the computer screen, instead of the screen being between 2 of the cameras on the rig. The headphones are getting an extra dose of parallax since they're so close to the camera. It's advisable for actors to stand back several feet from the GoPro rig to avoid parallax on some part of their bodies. The best and easiest way to get a consistent stitch is to create a template for your rig that you can use as a basis for all your stitches. If you record inside an office, with these types of ceilings for example, it will be difficult for the stitching programs to identify matching points, because this ceiling doesn't have many unique details to match. The pattern on the ceiling basically just all looks the same. For this reason, if you are shooting with the goal of creating a new template, then make it easier on yourself and shoot outside or in a place with a lot of unique details that will be easy for the program to connect between cameras. To stop recording, press the record button on the remote or turn off each camera individually. If you use the remote to stop recording, then hold the off button on the remote. Then all 6 cameras will turn off. Create folders for each camera. You can also create folders for Premiere Pro or any other programs and files that you want to keep organized here. If you have multiple takes, then create folders for each take inside the cam folder. Import the footage into the correct camera and take folders, and rename the file to reflect the camera number and take number. Drag each video into VideoStitch. Click on the Synchronization tab. Look for the area in the beginning where you clapped for the audio sync, or twisted the rig around for the motion sync. If you press the record buttons individually instead of with a remote, then be sure to leave enough room in the timeline section for all the cameras to play the sound. If you did a motion sync, then press the motion sync button instead of the audio button. We won't see an audio track in the timeline like we would in Premiere Pro, so just look for the clap in the footage. Note that it's normal for all the photos to be on top of each other in VideoStitch's Output tab after the synchronization, until after you do the calibration. There are 2 options for calibration. If you already have a template for your camera rig, then this is where you would import it and apply it to the footage. Go to Window, Calibrate, Import Template, Browse or Recent. Once you have a template, you might not even need PTGui anymore and can do the calibration using only VideoStitch. You could also see if the automatic calibration works for your footage. However, if you get some strange results like this one, you might need to export to PTGui. In VideoStitch, go to Edit, Extract Stills 2, and create a new folder for the stills. Remember to save the VideoStitch project. Open PTGui and click on Load Images, and find that folder where you extracted the stills from VideoStitch. Now you'll get the EXIF data box, where PTGui will ask for camera lens data. Focal length can be around 15 to 17.2, crop factor 1. I read on the VideoStitch forums that these numbers don't need to be accurate. They are starting points for image alignment, and they are updated when you add control points and optimize the template. Press OK and click on Align Images. This is another spot where you could apply a template. If you don't have a template, your image might look strange, like a blob, upside down, or all of the images on top of each other. If one of the images is upside down, then go into the Image Parameters tab and change the roll to negative or positive, whatever the opposite is in your case. In the example here, add a negative sign in front of the 83.8094. Here's the result. You can also tweak the numbers to get it just right. If no control points exist, click the blue Generate Control Points in the other Control Points window. Sometimes you can shift-click and drag to highlight an area on an image, and then right-click in that box to generate control points. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You may need to add more control points between images if PTGui doesn't already connect them. Click on the left image, for example, camera number 2, and find the exact similar point in the second image on the right, in this case, camera number 3. It might be difficult with camera number 5, which is the one camera pointing upward, especially if it's on a typical office building ceiling or a clear blue sky. It just all looks the same, so it's hard for the program to pinpoint the right spot. The best thing to do in this case is to set points on the corners of the lights. If you're having difficulty finding the matching point between the left and right images, in this case, maybe you're not sure which edge of the ceiling light this is supposed to be here, then hover the mouse cursor over the full panorama in the editor window. Little crosshairs will also appear over the corresponding areas in the two images in the Control Points window. If there's one spot that's just not lining up, then go to the Mask tab. Choose the image that has the best looking area and use the green masking tool. This will make that camera's image more visible. It kind of hides the other camera. Hopefully, by adding control points and messing around with the various tab options, you might have a stitch that looks pretty darn good. Even if it has some errors like messed up ceiling lights, that's okay. We'll save this as a template, and you can always update or save new templates as you find more settings that work for your specific situation, cameras, and rig. So, save the project as a template and open VideoStitch again. Go to Window, Calibration, Import Template, and browse for the panorama template that you just saved from PTGui. Is the ceiling too dark? One of the cameras overexposed? The Color Correction tab can help. Pick a good frame in the timeline, meaning a frame where your face isn't up close looking at the record button, and click on Adjust Sequence. In the timeline, you can adjust the red or blue and exposure on individual cameras. Input 5 just means camera 5, like in PTGui. You can also mess around with the Color Correction tab to see if it helps with your footage. If you press play and the color keeps flickering strangely, then try clicking on Adjust on Current Frame. Move ahead a couple frames, click it again, move ahead a few more frames, just until it starts looking right. If you've added keyframes here and there, and you press play, and then you find that there's suddenly a weird animation of the entire panorama moving strangely as you scrub through the timeline, then it's probably due to some keyframes that were moved somewhere or accidentally created. Maybe delete some of them, or all of them, and start over again. If the horizon looks crooked, you can fix it by clicking on the Orientation button. This will bring up a blue grid, and you can click and drag until the image looks correct. Exporting is done in the Process tab in the upper right corner of the screen. Click Browse to choose where you want the file to be saved. Note that the H.264 video encoder does not support resolutions higher than 4096. The H.264 codec can be used for resolutions up to 4096 by 2018. For a larger size, like if you want to export 8K from Premiere later, choose the JPEG sequence format and click Set Optimal Size. Then we'll import that into Premiere Pro. Remember to save! In Premiere Pro, import the JPEGs from VideoStitch as an image sequence. From here, you can make a sequence and do some more color correction if you want. If you've got a big old tripod on the nadir of your footage, it can be easily covered up with a circular logo. In the timeline of your sequence, click on the logo layer, go to the Effects panel, type in Metal, and apply Project 2D. At this point, if the window showing the footage suddenly goes black, and you no longer see the logo or any footage at all, then this might be because your logo is too large. Take it into Photoshop and make it smaller, and then bring it back into Premiere and try it again. Go to the Effect Controls panel to the Metal plugin. You can adjust the scale if you want, but the main thing is to set the X-axis to 90 degrees. Here's an example of what it would look like in the YouTube video. For more tutorials on this, see the link in the description box. Let's export an 8K video from Premiere. In the Export window, choose QuickTime Format. I have this preset saved as 8K 360VR. Set the video codec to MPEG-4 video. Match source, quality 100, render at maximum depth, keyframe every 30 frames. Data rate 80,000, video is VR, monoscopic. Down below, check Use Maximum Render Quality. Under Audio, Uncompressed, 48,000 Hz. Under Publish, you can upload automatically to YouTube. Just log in here, and the video's title would be just the same as the output name above. We used to need a separate metadata spatial injector app, but it's no longer required if you're using Premiere Pro CC 2017, which has some VR tools built in. Once I tried to change the title of a video on YouTube coming from Premiere before the render was 100% complete, and it seemed to ruin the upload to YouTube. The render was done and saved on the computer, but I needed to upload it to YouTube through a browser then. So wait until after the YouTube video is fully rendered and uploaded from Premiere before making changes on YouTube. So now you have a video that you can share. If you like what you see, feel free to subscribe to see future videos.